Hi, I'm Sheana Davis, the Epicurean Connection, and thank you for joining us today. It is summertime and we're knee deep in tomatoes. I'm sure most of you are too if you have a homegrown garden. We're lucky here in Sonoma, we have local farmers who grow beautiful tomatoes in addition to our garden at home. So today we're gonna cook with tomatoes. We're gonna make a tomato rice, which makes a delicious rice salad or rice filling for your burrito. And it's based on using tomatoes in your base. We're going to make a gazpacho with cucumbers, watermelon, and tomatoes, basil. And then we're gonna make a mozzarella tomato salad. And then we're gonna make a few more items with fresh tomatoes today. So please, if you have any questions, you can type them in and they'll be read off to us. No questions are too silly. And we always like to say that all the ingredients that we're cooking with today are EBT, SNAP, and WIC approved. So these recipes are accessible to everyone. And after the class, we will email the recipes to all of the guests and the attendees. So thank you for joining us today. So starting with the tomato rice, which I actually made just about a half an hour ago, because otherwise it would take too long to make during the class. So we start with a cup of pureed tomatoes, a quarter cup of red onions, 4 cloves of garlic, and 2 cups of rice. And then we saute the onions, garlic, and a little bit of olive oil, 2 tablespoons. And then I added in a half a cup of celery and a cup of chopped carrots. And with that said, we have a beautiful rice pilaf that comes out a gorgeous orange color. And I'm gonna put it there, get my bowl. And this pilaf is wonderful because you can use it as a salad. You can serve it inside a burrito. You could make a stir fry out of it, but it comes out looking absolutely gorgeous. And really, I use the carrots, celery, and onions, but you could add in fresh summer corn, roasted grilled bell peppers, zucchini. So this tomato rice is a base for you to cook at home. And then you can add the vegetables of your choice that you have at home in addition. So feel free to add chopped zucchini, choice is yours. What you have, we have fresh bell peppers that we got this morning. So really you can add what you'd like, but this is the easiest and delicious recipe. So in your burritos, a stir fry, a nice salad. If you fluff it with a fork, keep it fluffed, it makes a nice pilaf. So I'll turn it so y'all can see it there. And there you have a wonderful tomato rice salad. So it is so simple and so easy, and kids love this recipe. And I start again with a cup of tomato puree. So I simply take the tomatoes, cut the top off, then cut them in half, and then I puree them in the blender. So that said, I'm going to move to the gazpacho. So the gazpacho is a chilled tomato soup, and it's so easy to make. I'm gonna move this over so I'm a little centered for you all. In the blender here, I have 2 cups of chopped tomatoes. I have 4 cloves of garlic, a cup of chopped cucumbers, fresh cucumbers we got this morning. We peel them and then just chop them in little 1-inch chunks. And then I put in 12 leaves of basil and 2 cloves of garlic, and then I add a half a cup of water, and that's purely to get the tomatoes moving in the blender. And then I puree it, and this is the easiest. Kids love the noise the blenders make. And you end up having a chilled gazpacho within 10 minutes. And then I'm going to add in a little bit of watermelon, and this gives it a nice fruity, sweeter flavor. So a cup of watermelon. I'm going to give it about a half a teaspoon of salt and some fresh ground black pepper. And if you like, you could add in some chili flakes if you like a little spice, or you could add in a little chopped jalapeno, your choice. But the nice thing about the tomato gazpacho, it's very accommodating. You can use 4 cups of tomatoes and no cucumbers, or you can use more cucumbers or more watermelon. So it's a great way to use up your garden in your pantry. And with that said, we have a wonderful, fresh, beautiful tomato gazpacho. And it makes just about a quart for this recipe. There you go. And if you make it ahead of time and then put it in your refrigerator for at least an hour, be nice and chilled, and it's delicious. It'll last up to 3 days in your refrigerator. Makes a nice little warm or chilled lunch on a warm day. And it's a wonderful recipe and so simple and so quick that sometimes people don't believe me how quick it is to make. And like we had this in our delivery service this week, and we sold quarts of it, and it really took me like 20 minutes to make 12 quarts of gazpacho. So I hope you'll enjoy that recipe, and please keep in mind it does only last about 3 days in the refrigerator. So make it in smaller batches as you'll eat it, and that way you'll have a fresh summer gazpacho. Move this back. So why don't we make the tomato mozzarella salad next? So I have these little baby mozzarellas, little balls, and they're wonderful. And I'm going to mix in some Kalamata olives. So I have a cup of mozzarella balls, half a cup of Kalamata olives, and then I'm going to add in some of the tomatoes, and I dice them and make it everything about the uniform size. So texture-wise, it tastes nice. You can have a little bite of mozzarella, a little bite of tomato. And this is a fun salad. You could also turn it into skewers. So you could skewer a Kalamata olive, a mozzarella ball, and a chunk of tomato and have nice little skewers for a party. So I put in the tomatoes. I'm going to sprinkle it with salt, pepper. I'm going to drizzle it with olive oil and vinegar and balsamic vinegar. And it makes a wonderful salad. So just stir it all together. And again, this recipe is accommodating because if you'd like to add a little chopped onion, you can sprinkle in some fresh chopped onion. And I have some fresh basil leaves here. I'll tear the basil leaves. I like to tear the basil leaves when they're so fresh. It gives it like a nice flavor. A lot of chefs chop it. You can also chop it. I'm not opposed to either, whichever you prefer, but kids love to tear the lettuce leaves, and it smells really good when you're doing it too. So gives it a nice flavor. Then I have a nice olive oil behind me I have a tall grass, but you can use any olive oil you'd like. If you don't have olive oil, vegetable oil works too. So I prefer olive oil, but the oil of your choice. A drizzle of balsamic vinegar. There you go. A sprinkle of salt and pepper. And again, if you'd like to add some garlic into this recipe, you can. It's very accommodating to what you have in your pantry. You can't really go wrong making a mozzarella tomato salad. And you can use the mozzarella of your choice. If you don't have mozzarella balls, you can get a mozzarella larger ball, chop it, or the blocks of mozzarella and chop it. Or you could even grate it and sprinkle it in with the tomatoes. So with that said, we have a tomato mozzarella salad with Kalamata and basil. What should we make next? Any questions, Karina? So far, are we doing good? Okay, but feel free to ask any questions. I'm using early girl tomatoes today. They're nice, juicy, great for cooking and making salsas and salads. And so next, how about we make a salsa? And I'm going to use the blender again. It goes so quick, but you can also chop it. So with our salsa, we are going to make, pardon me. With our salsa, I'm going to put in some chopped tomatoes. And you'll all get these recipes following the show. I'm going to put in some red onion. So a cup of tomato, 2 tablespoons of red onion. I have some jalapeno here. I'm just going to put in a couple pieces. I started with a whole jalapeno. I like to cut them in half lengthwise and remove the seeds. If you're cooking, if you have sensitive skin or you have kids, I like to wear gloves when I'm preparing the jalapenos. That way you don't take a chance of rubbing your eyes. I put in a couple real rings of jalapenos. And I have some garlic. I'll put in 2 cloves of garlic. And I'm going to add a little bit of green onion because it's bountiful this time of year. And last but not least, I have some cilantro over here, some fresh, wonderful cilantro we got this morning. So some cilantro. And you can always add more cilantro. So I like to be conservative when I'm starting, and then I can add in more if I like more. And because basil is everywhere, I have a nice opal purple basil. I'm going to add in a few basil leaves just for fun. I'm going to give it a sprinkle of salt, a sprinkle of pepper. There we go. And then I take this over to our blender, put the lid on it, give it a few pulses. And I left it a little chunky so you can taste the tomatoes, have a little flavor. And then get yourself some fresh tortilla chips and enjoy a nice summer salsa. Put it over, drizzle it over some scrambled eggs, make some black beans and have some salsa. And this is great. You can make this, and this recipe freezes beautifully. So if you want to make some summer salsa, put it in your containers, you know, plastic containers or mason jars, label and date it and put it in your freezer, and you'll be able to have a taste of summer salsa all winter long. So please do enjoy that recipe too. And let's see, anything else? Any questions so far, Karina? We're doing good. I'm going to put a little bit of lime juice in. These are great lime or lemon and lime presses. Kids love these and they're fun to press a little bit of lime juice in. So I'm going to add a little bit of lime juice to our salsa. I'll give it a stir. And that is delicious. And you know, one of our family favorites is we'll get a chicken, roast it, serve it with the fresh salsa, make your own taco bar. So put out some tortillas, salsa, chicken, black beans. So please do enjoy those recipes. Please. If you want to make it thicker, then I would recommend hand chopping it versus the blender. So if you hand chop, it'll be thicker. It is soupy, but the tomatoes right now are so juicy that we're at the peak of the tomato season. But if you want it to be less juicy, I would recommend hand chopping them and not using the blender. And that way you can pick the texture that you would like. Good question though, thank you. And you feel free to add in some tomatillos to this or use golden tomatoes. You can use the tomato of your choice to make this salsa, but it just shows you how simple it is to make the salsa. So we have your tomato mozzarella salad and tomato mozzarella with olives, your fresh tomato salad, or salsa I mean. We have our gazpacho, and we have the tomato rice. So the last but not least is I like to make a tomato cucumber salad. So I take our tomatoes, and I chop them in little cubes. And I have our cucumbers here, which because, you know, on the time frame, I pre-cut them a little bit. So I cut them into little cubes, like half-inch cubes. And then I add in some red onion or green onion, your choice. And you can chop them in smaller pieces if you'd like. But again, if you have lots and lots of tomatoes and less cucumbers, you can go heavier on the tomatoes and less cucumbers if you'd like. You could add in some bell pepper. You could add in really whatever's in your pantry, but base of the salad is tomatoes and cucumbers because we are in the peak of tomato season. And so I add in some red onion. I'm going to add in the green onion. There we go. I'm going to give it a little bit of salt and pepper. And then I'm going to give it a drizzle of the olive oil. And there you have a wonderful cucumber tomato salad. Talk about the taste of summer, and you know, make some fresh crostinis, little sourdough baguette slices brushed with olive oil. Serve with the tomato cucumber salad. And again, if you have other items in your pantry, bell peppers, more cucumbers, feel free to embellish and add more items in there. You could also turn that into a tomato bread salad by making croutons, toasting the crostini or cubes of bread with olive oil, salt, and pepper, and then making the bread salad. And that is a wonderful dish, and that's a total family-friendly dish. I recommend making the tomato salad and having the croutons separate and tossing it right before you enjoy it. Otherwise, the bread gets a little soggy. But it's a nice crispy texture with the fresh tomatoes, and that makes a wonderful tomato salad. So with that said, tomato 5 ways today. You have a tomato rice, tomato cucumber salad, a fresh summer tomato salsa, a mozzarella salad, and last but not least, your gazpacho. And your gazpacho, I want to point out, will separate, but all you do is shake it or stir it back up, and it simply goes back. It's basically the chopped tomatoes going to the top, and the juice is in the bottom. but it doesn't hurt at all. You just give a nice little stir, and there you broke the separation. You could also, when you're serving it, chop a few tomatoes and serve it on top, or garnish it with chopped basil or torn basil leaves. Or if you have a little creme fraiche, do a drizzle of creme fraiche on top. And with that said, there's your tomatoes 5 ways. And we look forward to having you join us again each week. If you can't join us at 11 o'clock each Thursday, we have all of these virtual classes on our website, theepicureanconnection.com. And you can view past classes, and we'll continue to post the classes as we host them. So thank you very much. And before we close out, if there's any other questions, I'll take them, please. I do like the early girl, and then I like the ruby, which is a newer one over here. And I love the shape. It's a little more, not as round, and it has green, and when you slice it, it's gorgeous. And I can include a few varieties in the list that we send out, but look at the beautiful colors on that, the green on the top. And then I also like the zebra tomatoes, and they're green and red striped. And then there's the sunshine gold, which turn into giant, beautiful heirloom tomatoes. So that's a great question, and thank you. The early girls are the ones I tend to get from our farmers when we're doing cooking, because they're nice and juicy, and they make a wonderful gazpacho, salsa, tomato salad. You just can't go wrong with them. And when they're ripe, they're ready to eat. It's like we have no tomatoes, and then suddenly we have pounds and pounds of tomatoes. So tomatoes too, before we close out, if you have an abundance of them, you can chop them to pieces and put them on a sheet pan, freeze them, and then put them in Ziploc bags, and you can save those tomatoes to pull pieces out throughout the winter. And the reason, if you freeze them on a sheet pan and then put them in the Ziploc, that way they don't chunk together, and you can pull a few pieces out at a time. So it's a great way to preserve your tomato season, is to chop them, lay them out on the sheet pan, freeze them, and then repackage them. And that way you have the flavor of summer tomatoes all year long. So with that said, I'd like to thank you for joining us at the Epicurean Connection. I'm Sheana Davis, my husband Ben Sessions, and my daughter Karina Davis. Hope you all have a good day. Thank you so much.